Do you want to know how to encourage art and music in toddlers? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and child development, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, education, homeschool. Wow, a lot of things actually. And I usually teach most of those things through the lens of the principle self-government. In this video, we're talking about art and music appreciation in toddlers. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a true story from my family. In fact, I'll probably share a couple of stories from my family. I do love art, I love music, and I wanted my children to love it too. And so I'm excited to share with you some of the simple things that you can do to teach your child to love music and art too. And I'm talking the good stuff. Now, when I say the good stuff, I am serious. There is some art that is just kind of meh. Okay, anybody can draw a picture, anybody can put some junk together and call it art. There's tons of things that are art, but then there's the really great art. You know what I'm talking about? The stuff that just speaks volumes to you, that just somehow calls to you. I want you to think about Christmas time. How much art is actually involved in the Christmas or holiday season? There's so much, right? There's fictional arts, there's real art, and there's art from all the different time periods that we can actually draw from when we're thinking about Christmas. So for my children, I decided that when they were little, I wanted to expose them to really great things so that they could learn to love art. One of the key things that you do when your child is little is you expose them to the best stuff. Give them the foundation of really great things. Now, of course, when it comes to music, they love the little songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder what you are. Now you hear the rhythmic quality in that song. That's actually a great thing to expose a child to, because this gets them now into rhythm, into cadence, okay, sequence of things that they're putting together. So that's real music that they can start to mimic. But then as they listen to other great pieces of music, they'll hear some of those similar rhythms that come in there. So you start with the simple things, but I would go to the classics. You know, I didn't spend any time just turning on the radio and having my children listen to, sheesh, who was around back in those days? I don't even remember if it was like the Backstreet Boys. That's probably even older than that. I don't know. I don't know who was playing on the radio back then, because quite frankly, I didn't listen to it. I decided I was going to go to the greats. In the car, if I ever did turn on the radio, we would be listening to like Beethoven CDs, you know, and we would be listening to, because that's back when cars all had CD players. I get it. Anyway, so the playlist, okay? Have your classical brain food, water music playlist, the playlist of Bach and Beethoven and Mozart. I mean, who doesn't want to drive down the road going dun, da dun, da dun, 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 da dun, da dun. I mean, it's like a commercial. Like you feel like you're being produced on your drive, you know? I mean, it's so much fun. Anyway, get your children into that type of stuff, and it will be life-changing for them. In fact, as my children grew, I bought them their own, you know, boom boxes back in the day, right? And CD sets, so that they could have all of that music too. And I did not even expose them to the other stuff at all, except for, you know, your church music, because church music, at least where we go to church, is like the hymns, and they're sacred, sometimes can be upbeat too, a little bit. But those also usually have some really classical rhythms in them. So we were singing church hymns, children's church hymns on a daily basis, learning them, memorizing them, singing children's songs like The Wheels on the Bus and Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and those types of things. But then also we were exposing them to the greats in music, the ones who really started forming the patterns for it all. And the same goes for the art. So if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that occasionally I talk about religious things. I am a religious person. You don't have to be to listen to this video, but I'm going to show you some religious pictures. So I actually bought a whole bunch of pictures, pieces of art. They were just like 8 by 10 pictures like this. I guess these are probably 8.5 by 11 technically, aren't they? Because they go in a page protector. I put them in page protectors and I stuck them in a huge binder. And these were all of the pictures that went to scripture, so that as I read my children's scripture, we could go through and look at real pieces of art, not just cartoon pieces of art. So we see here the shepherds that are seeing the angels at the birth of Christ. And then a whole different type of art here where we see this black and white of Mary and Joseph and the baby. So this is a little Christmas scene. There's so many pieces of Christmas art that you can use, and biblical art that's going to be classical. You can teach the stories with it too, which is so amazing. But I wanted my children to see the real thing. Sure, we had some storybooks that had some cartoon images of scripture stories in them. You know, they learn about Jonah and Noah and stuff like that. But I also wanted to go to some of the masters who painted stories of Jonah and Noah and let my children really feel the real quality of those paintings so that they could really attach themselves to the story. I think good art draws you in. It doesn't just spark an interest, it brings you in. You become part of the picture in some way. And I wanted my children to dive deeply into that. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I did homeschool my children, so I spent a lot of money on books. And we studied book after book after book. Sure, we used our local library a bit, you can always do that. But when my children were tiny, I even bought tiny books with classical art in them. So this little set is an example of, it's a set plus a book, actually, of something I bought. I don't know if you can still buy it. It's called the Mini Masters, okay? So there's Degas, Matisse, Monet, Van Gogh, in this one, Renoir. So these books all have, if you open them, you can see the real artwork, and then a little something you can read about it as you're looking at the picture. So beautiful paintings where your children can really get to know the masters, and they're on board books for little teeny children. How beautiful is that? Now, I didn't just stop at showing them the great masters, but we also went to museums and we would go and see paintings. Here's the thing. If you want your child to appreciate good music and good art, you've got to go to the concerts, go to the museums, go to the places where the art is and actually stop and look at it, talk about it, have a conversation about it. And when they're a toddler, you can still do this. Now, I know when they're toddlers, you're usually using books kind of like this. So this is a 5-minute goodnight stories, okay? So there's a whole bunch of little goodnight stories in here. There's this one about a little squirrel. Now that's very basic art, but it is still good art, very classical art. There's stories in here about turtles and about ladybugs and about, you know, horses and gingerbread men and, you know, candy houses and Hansel and Gretel and all that kind of thing. So these are little stories that you might normally read to your children. They have art in them, and it's okay to talk about that art and experience that art with them, but making sure that they get to see the differences in the art is important. So find some of the details in the art. If you are seeing the gingerbread man run past a pond, talk about the dragonfly that's there. Talk about the grasses that are there, the sky that's there. Then you pull out your Renoir and say, oh, look at this grass. This looks like real grass. So you can help them see the difference in these pictures as they're learning to appreciate them. Also, give your children crayons and give them the paper and let them draw things. And as they draw different shapes, then tell them, oh, you drew a car. Like if it kind of looks like a car, declare it's a car, you know? So that they see they can actually draw something if they put their mind to it. That opens their mind so that they can see those other pictures in the children's books now as options of things that they can copy. And then one day get up to where the masters are in some of their great books. As you are choosing stories to read to your children, don't just look at the story, but look at the art. So this is a really great book. It's an old book. It's the Children's Book of Virtues. I think I've mentioned it before on this channel, but you can see the artwork in here is really beautiful as it's around. It talks about the different stories in here. These stories speak to the child in a different way. okay, as they're sharing these virtues with the children. So pick things that I would say have more of a classic feel to them, that speak more to the child. I kept this type of thing in mind when I wrote my own children's books. So many of you know that follow this channel that I've written many books. I've written 11. 4 of them are for children, these 4 right here. Now, when I wrote this book, which was the first one, London LaRae Says Okay, this one teaches following instructions to children. The artist said to me, I love Becky Fossen. She's done all the art for all of these books. Anyway, she said to me, okay, do you want it from like bird's eye view, bug's eye view? Do you want it to be kind of darker? Because a lot of the books right now are kind of washed dark. And I was like, no way, no way, no way. For children, everything needs to be light. If it's good, it's light. If it's a picture of something bad, it can be dark. But if I'm showing them something that's good, I want it to be light. That's another thing that I did when they were tiny, like toddlers and little children. The pictures needed to be light if they were good. I didn't want to give the message that good is bad and bad is good, because the lighting makes a difference. Dark usually symbolizes something that is bad. We don't even have to tell a person that. It just does. And you can see here how they can see. Now these books all have little animals that are hidden in every page, and they can find them, and it's really fun. But we see a little London here, my daughter with her grandmother having a moment. We see her the page before in this amazing tree, you know, that was drawn. But it's all, you can see, very hopeful, very light. Even though London right now is like not following her grandma's instructions, we still see what she's probably thinking and feeling at the time. So as you're looking through things at the library, or you're looking for books to buy and music to buy for your children, remember the light and the dark. Those things make a difference. Pick the things that are light. And if you ever get exposed to something dark, point it out. The children will see it anyway. Just point it out and say, oh yeah, that's probably a bad picture. Or that feels different. That feels kind of dark. Let them understand what they're feeling and experiencing. Even when they're tiny, they can do that. So my daughter, Paige, she's a music master, I would say. She's just incredible at music. She even went to university in music and got 2 different degrees, one in music and one in marriage and family. But she started teaching her children when they were very young music. She plays on the piano with them, she sings with them, she sings in the car with them, just like I did when she was little. All of my children learned to play musical instruments and sing. And it's actually because I spent so much time singing with them and playing music with them every single day. We learned a song every day. We started with little tiny songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Then we moved up to songs like I Am a Child of God, or things that would be hopeful, that would be like church hymns that they might sing. And we moved up to the bigger church hymns like Amazing Grace and those types of things, and got into some really big memorizations. And what we did was I would just sing the song, whatever it was, 3 times in a row each day. And usually by the end of the week, they knew it. My little Clara, my granddaughter Clara, who's 2, she can sing full songs. We'll just sit in the car and she'll just sing to us. I can start her out on one little word or 2 or a phrase of a song, and she can finish the whole thing because she knows how to sing. She loves drawing. All of these things just are done with her on a regular basis. Children learn things incrementally, right? Line upon line, precept upon precept. The children are learning here a little, there a little. That means that we have to be constantly teaching. There's not one magic thing that you do to teach your child to love art and music. It's the daily culture that you have that teaches them if they're going to love the art and music. So what type of a culture are you creating in your home? Deliberately decide it. If it's going to be a culture where they get exposed to the best things so that the rest of their life they're comparing everything to the best, then just do it. Only expose them to the best at first. When they're toddlers, you have that option. You have complete control when they're that little. And then later, expose to more and discuss. Now, as you are teaching your children, sometimes there might be some things that are no answers. Some of those other children's books that I held up might be beneficial to you. You can find the Teaching Self-Government children's books and so much more about teaching your children self-government at teachingselfgovernment.com. When children learn self-government, they're more calm, they're happy, and your communications are better overall. Less tantrums, less meltdowns when they learn the skills of self-government. So find out more, teachingselfgovernment.com. I'll see you there.